This is Anna Carmo with UN News. At least 15 people have died in a massive fire at a refugee camp in southern Bangladesh, home mainly to Rohingyas who fled neighboring Myanmar, and 400 are still missing. That's the latest on Tuesday from UN teams and refugee volunteers on the ground at Cox's Bazar, who need to rebuild quickly ahead of the upcoming monsoon, as UN Children's Fund spokesperson James Elder tells UN News' Daniel Johnson.
What we know at the moment is across an area that really is the largest settlement for refugees on the planet. Life is already very difficult based on the intensity, the lack of space in which they live. And there's been a fire late yesterday, Bangladesh time, that literally has ripped through what is a Rohingya refugee camp. Now, UN teams on the ground have been reporting over the last sort of 12 hours that they've not really ever seen anything of this scale and intensity that has ripped through homes where you've often got 10 people living in a small shanty as a family or as an extended family. So the UN reporting at the moment that at least 15 people are dead, 400 are missing, tens of thousands who, again, were already living in a very difficult situation. Tens of thousands have lost what they called their homes and whatever meager possessions they had. So it's a disaster. It's unfolding. It really looked like that despite all the efforts to bring it under control, the fire, it continued to rage through the camps, and it really only slowed once it reached main roads and water bodies.
Do you know what started the fire?
No, there is no clarity at the moment. There are those in charge of looking into the investigation and causes and so on are doing that right now, and there's been no firm word on cause of the fire.
But you've got up to 10 people living in each shelter, mainly women and children, I understand.
Yeah, the thing with the camps are that we are talking about, almost 500,000, at least 450,000 Rohingya children are in those camps. So they're making up just over 1 in 2. Now, again, these staggering numbers, but that's 450,000 children who already are living in very difficult circumstances or went through horrendous circumstances to have to move in the first place. Now, clearly, this is only going to make things much worse for children. From a UNICEF point of view, what we try to do with these kids, it's not just about health, it's not just about vaccines, it's about learning centres. Unfortunately, we fear many of those learning centres have been burnt to the ground. So, for all these kids who've endured so much and day-to-day life is unimaginably hard, it just got a bit worse.
So I know that in addition to your learning centres there for children, a huge medical centre belonging to the International Organisation for Migration was also razed to the ground. So that's pretty disastrous. What are the other emergency needs that are required right now? And how is the UN and particularly the UN Children's Fund, UNICEF, helping?
I think at the moment, the most urgent things are a mix of, as you say, health. It's emergency care right now. It is tend to those people who have been injured in the fire. It's to make sure that we get back. It's such a huge emergency response in a place like that it's so key that we're able to continue. All UN agencies, WFP, keep getting food to people. UNICEF and, as you said, IOM, keep getting that first aid support to people. For an organisation like UNICEF right now, we're trying to find kids. There are children separated from their families. So there's emergency requirements in the next 48 hours, and then there's going back to what we were doing 2 or 3 days before this horrendous fire ripped through these people's lives.
And in terms of upcoming emergencies, there's the monsoon, which is just around the corner. So how do you get the funding and the resources to rebuild? How much do you need to rebuild there?
Well, it's tens of millions of dollars, and I think every agency will have their own request. I think IOM was talking today already of $20 million. We know how many emergencies are, and we know that there is a push for funds from different crises to COVAX and so on. And yet the images of what the Rohingya have endured have gone around the world over the years. And unfortunately now people are going to be seeing even more graphic images of these fires ripped through. So, and remembering that so many of these refugees are volunteers. They're volunteers in our health clinics or our learning centres, and they're the first responders overnight to this fire. So there's so many reasons to try and find those funds to help these people get back on their feet.